2, 1. Yes, sir. It's WPGC 95.5, the DNA of the DMV. Myself, the Scholar, DJ Academics, here with another segment of Creators of the DMV. I'm so happy about because I get to highlight the people that are so important to the culture outside of just being your regular rapper, singer, which is all fine and dandy. I mean, y'all got y'all place in the hip-hop culture and the culture of DMV and all that. But there's other people outside of that that are very important to the culture that make the DMV experience so unique and special. And right now I have, I don't know how to get this man the best Steve Harvey. I mean, activist, philanthropist, just thought provoker. Just for the people, Mr. TONYLEWIS Jr. What's happening, man?
What's up, bro?
That was probably the best I could think about.
I appreciate that. Nah, that's fine.
Like I said, we off the club. How you feeling, man? Appreciate you coming through.
Nah, thanks for having me, bro.
All right, man. So we were just talking about kids, man. So both of us are girl dads right now. So you saying you got 2 and you shooting in the gym for the
Nah, we done, man.
Nah, man. You got one
done.
more in you.
We
one
done,
more
man. That little one, man, she took all the energy out of us. I think we good. We got it.
So how old is the youngest?
She's 3.
She's 3.
My oldest is 6.
Your oldest is 6.
Yeah.
So you got a little 3-year gap. You
Yeah.
good. They still gonna be in school together.
Yeah, they will be.
So you get one more, she can still go. He can still. We gonna wish that.
Yeah,
right.
We try to get a boy. That's what I want for.
Yeah, you just got to go in a different position. That's all.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, with the girl dad whole thing and hashtag going right now, where were you when you actually heard about the whole Kobe?
Yeah,
incident?
I was in the house, and it's crazy because me and my oldest daughter was watching something on TV when I got a text. You know what I mean, like a screenshot from TMZ or whatever. And I was like, man, so my first initial thoughts was like it wasn't true, right? I think like a lot of people, you know what I mean? But soon found out that it was true.
I know I was. I'm like, please, if y'all lied about anything, lie about this. Let this be a lie.
Yeah, man. And then when, but I also, right, it's Kobe Bryant, right? So part of me felt like it wasn't wrong just because of his magnitude, right? That, I knew it had to be something more substantial if they put that out there. And with that being said, the first thing I thought, particularly when I found out it was like a helicopter crash, my initial thought was his family with him. You know what I mean? And then, so for a couple hours went past and they, were saying about his daughter, and that just was like, and even a more, severe blow as it relates to just thinking about that. You know what I mean? And then you found out there was other folks there too. So
yeah, and it was also a husband, a wife, and their daughter as well. And they have 2 more kids.
Yeah, but I saw that.
Sheesh. And the pilot was actually had 20 years of flight experience. Yeah. And he got clearance to fly. Sure. It was.
Sure, I don't know, man. I guess they just, the fog or whatever, and didn't see that hill. Yeah, it's just unfortunate though. I think what we got to understand is that about life, right? Life is fragile, man. And no matter, what impacts we make on the world, one thing is important for us to try to make as big of an impact on the world as we can while we're here, and, do all the right things and spend time with your family, all of those things that I think we all value. But that at the same time, no matter what, anything can happen to any of us at any point, man.
That's the one thing I learned from it. I was like, man, tomorrow, I even posted it. As soon as I heard, I was like, man, tomorrow really is not promised to nobody. Like, we understand it and we know that and we hear it all the time. But when Kobe goes, like, yeah, tomorrow ain't really promised to nobody. Like, Kobe, we were supposed to see Kobe in the courtside at the Lakers game for the next 20, 30 years, man. It just don't seem right. So that threw me for a loop. 13-year-old
baby. It definitely, I was.
And she was a monster too.
Yeah, man, I was sad. I'm not that I'm like a completely like detached, desensitized person or somebody who don't have feelings, but it's just like sometimes, like particularly like celebrity issues or whatever, like it don't always impact me. Like, but this one I felt it, and I think the girl dad piece was even something that took it to an even higher level, right? Like, wow, man.
Like, she wanted to go to UConn, and then you saw what the UConn girls did at the game. They were playing Team USA. They put her number. They gave her a jersey with the flowers and said Mamacita, because that was her nickname, Mamacita. Right. She's forever a Husky. Man, it was. Oh, man. Have you ever had the chance to actually meet Kobe?
Nah, I never met Kobe Bryant.
I met him one time.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and this is, I'm all of barely 21.
Right.
I'm in Vegas.
Right.
All right, because back then, this was Team USA. It was over the summertime. My birthday's in July.
Okay.
So Team USA, they used to practice in Vegas before they went out.
Yep.
So we was at the Wynn Hotel in Vegas, and he was walking through. It wasn't with a crowd of people. He was low key. He probably was just coming back from practice. I think he had on hooping shorts and stuff on.
Yeah.
So he was just coming from the gym, probably on a solo. Now that you know his history and how he worked and his work ethic, he was probably just working out on his own, and just went to work out. And he was walking through the through the casino on the way with just one other person. Looked like it probably could have been an agent or some handler. You know how that is, but it was just two of them. And it was me and my aunt. We stopped him and took a picture. I mean, he spoke to us. He took his time. And, he was a real cool guy, like down to earth. And it wasn't like he was like rushing us away or nothing like that. It was just a real down to earth guy. Sure. And that and what pissed me off about it, because this is the age of disposable cameras. So, needless to say, I lost the camera.
Oh man!
Don't have the picture. My aunt is mad at me to this day because. I don't have her picture of her and Kobe, and I don't even have my picture of me and Kobe.
I'm sure this obviously made you reflect on that.
It made me think of that. As soon as I was like, damn.
Man. It's, I growing up, you know what I mean? I be 40, so, Kobe coming to the league, I'm 16. Mm-hmm. I was an incredible AI fan. And
as we all were.
A few of my homies was like, we used to really, have deep conversations about who was the best between Iverson and Kobe. You know what I mean? I identify with AI more than Kobe, right? And I'm saying all that to say, though, as we, I always respected Iverson and thought Kobe was amazing. I just used to root for Allen Iverson. I felt like he represented, you know what I mean, my aesthetic. You know what I'm saying?
He just more resembled.
Who I am. You know what I'm saying? But long
Kobe
story
was a
short,
little bit more polished.
Yeah. And all the things.
And well-rounded. I mean, he did speak like three or four different languages.
And it was obviously the league, understood that and his value, right? But outside of that, no matter what, I used to be like, they just, setting him up to be like the next Jordan and all that kind of stuff. But this is the reality of what this was, to me, what really explains Kobe's greatness, right? All that God-given ability and talent that he still outworked everybody. He loved the craft more than anybody, right? Most times when people are that good, just God-given, right, they don't have the work ethic to match. He worked like somebody who was like, you know what I mean, a bum. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Somebody that was not as talented as he was. He was supremely talented, and I think we all can pull from that and learn from that. I know obviously call it the Mamba mentality or whatever, but I think I don't want people to get lost and really, like, no matter, even if you're good at something,
still
what makes you great, what makes you great and what's going to make you legendary is when you work at it every day. You know what I'm saying? And I think I've always been inspired by Kobe Bryant in that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've recognized that before this tragedy, that like the work he put into his craft, and that's what made him, supreme. And some people are okay with being good, right? And I'm not.
Absolutely.
And that's not. And I feel like I'm one of the people that's never been my mentality. Like I want to be the best at what I do, and that takes work, and I'm aware of that, and it takes always learning and growing and expanding, being open to criticism, all of those things that's gonna make you sharper. You know what I mean? So, man, God rest his soul.
Absolutely. And while we're still on Kobe, I mean, since you brought up Allen Iverson and Kobe's work ethic, Allen Iverson tweeted out his response into Kobe today. He said he'll never remember this. He'll never forget, let me get it right, this one moment with Kobe. It was their rookie year. Yeah, Allen Iverson. Oh, you see that? Okay, yeah. He said he went out to L.A. It was his first trip to L.A. Him and Kobe went out to dinner after the game. And then after they left the restaurant, Kobe asked Allen Iverson what was he about to do. And AI was like, man, I'm about to go to the club. So and Kobe looked at him, and Allen Iverson was like, well, what you about to do, Kobe? And Kobe said, I'm about to go to the gym. Yeah. So it was just funny that you brought up Allen Iverson and Kobe's work ethic, and it was just like that story just was like, boom, I was just reading it. Yeah. So it was just it's just tragic. So yeah, I mean, heart goes out to all the people that were affected by it, all the families. Yeah. Really? Not just Kobe and Mamacita, but all 9 people total. It was because the numbers went from
it was 5 at first. They were
7,
saying, but it's 9.
Then it went to 9. I was like, sheesh.
Yeah.
because it was a big helicopter, and the whole reason that he actually talked about it a couple years ago. The whole reason he started using helicopters like that is because so he can get home faster, so he could pick up the kids from school, because he wanted to have the family time on top of being able to still work out. Whereas though it would take him like an hour 15 minutes.
Well, anybody been to LA understands
LA.
that.
If you ever been to LA and he hop in the chopper, he back in 15 minutes. So
living here, you understand that.
Absolutely.
I mean, honestly, if you had the ability, DC traffic can be insane, especially if you going on the Beltway in any kind of way at a particular time. So you
495 ain't no joke.
Yeah,
295 will switch up on you like that.
Yeah,
it is crazy.
So if you could just get in the chopper, and from something that would take you an hour and a half, 2 hours in the car, you can do in 10 minutes. I mean. Yeah, and he did that. I was explaining to my home, like, this is not
for years. He was doing that since he was playing. Now, this ain't the first time.
This is how he travels.
10-something years.
Yeah, maybe daily. This is how he does it.
This is like catching an Uber for Kobe.
Yeah, I saw Kawhi Leonard, you know what I mean, who, gets around LA in the same way, same pilot. He was, he spoke to that too.
I didn't catch
about the pilot. Yeah, and the pilot was a great guy, and he flew for both of them. It's just an unfortunate tragedy, and then sometimes I just. People want to always go with point the finger, like who's to blame, and things happen.
It's just God's hand.
Yeah.
And who are we to question it?
Exactly.
Yeah, but what we can't question is your undeniability and your impact that you've had on the DMV over the past 10 plus years. I mean, from your book Slug, let's go ahead and break down that acronym, and let's break down the message behind that. And everything that you stand for, right?
Yeah, it was Slug, just my nickname. That's everybody who know and love me, that's what they call me.
Okay, but you turned it into something else.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the title of the book.
Okay.
But I entitled the book that because I think that's the purest me, right? That's me in my entirety, right? Slug, that's who I am, right? Tony Lewis Jr. is my name, but, the people that know me best, know me the most, know me the deepest, they call me Slug. So I just thought that was important. Subtitle is A Boy's Life in the Age of Mass Incarceration. It's my memoir, and it's about my life and growing up here in D.C., dealing with my father going to prison, dealing with my mother's mental illness, growing up in a community that was, filled with crime and, drugs and violence and all those things, but being able to circumvent that and navigate through that based on the love and the support that same community provided for me, and really trying to kind of peel back the onion and show people the humanity that exists in our communities, that we aren't, these sort of monolithic tropes that get talked about what our communities represent, to show all the layers and the complexities, and really putting a mirror up to America to say, when it goes off the rail in our community, why? Is it just because of the choices we make, or are there other variables, right, that's
kind of veered us there?
Absolutely, that informs those decisions. And so Slug, in my opinion, is the most comprehensive look at mass incarceration, because it does not stop at just the person that goes to prison. It really talks about the domino effect, the collateral damage that removing that person from that family and from that community causes amongst those left behind. I've leveraged the book in a way to really create attention for not only the issues with people returning to the community from incarceration, but also more specifically, what are we doing for children that have incarcerated parents? How are schools supporting them? How are schools identifying them? I had the blessing of working with DCPS to develop a mechanism to do that. Going in and out of the schools, also with these author talks. I want an organization called Penn Faulkner that I happen to sit on the board for currently. That's a literary org that they have a program. One of the things that they do, they have a program called Writers in Schools, where they bring authors into the classrooms throughout DCPS and DC charter schools to interact with the youth. And I've been one of the most requested authors in that. And those dialogues and interactions to me is like what I dreamt about. But I've also been able to lecture, go around on the college level and lecture. Again, the things that's covered in Slug. I mean, Slug really covers not only the sort of that surface level stuff, but it talks about colorism and the power of education, morality, mental health, obviously, all the things that come along with having an incarcerated loved one. So the book is deep, man. I encourage everybody to read it.
Man, Tony Lewis Jr., my special guest right here on Creators of the DMV, right here on WPGC 95.5. So let's break that down right there, exactly what it is. What is colorism?
Yeah, colorism is pretty much, particularly in the black community, where, your shade dictates how people treat you. And the people that are the lighter, closer to being white, are the people that seem or are looked at as being the most beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So having I speak through my mother's lens and her insecurities and issues that she had with being dark skinned, and things that I heard her say as I grew up. You know what I'm saying? As a boy, listening to that and seeing her struggle with that. And so, and then also seeing it play out in my community, you know what I mean? And was the craziest part about that too, with me having a biracial wife, right? I've thought about that like that, but that, I'm not with my wife because she light skinned. You feel me? That hasn't necessarily been my private. I don't know if that sounds right, but I've dealt with women across the, I mean.
That wasn't your intention when going after her. I wasn't looking for a lighter skinned wife. But it just happened to end up that way. But on her end, as being the only person in her family, her family is Afro-Brazilian, her mother's side of the family. And so her siblings, their father is Afro-Brazilian as well. So her brothers look like you. Oh, okay.
You feel me? So to see that colorism thing work on the opposite end, see her struggle with it almost, right? In her family, where not from being dark, but from being light. So it's just, these are the things that, that happen in communities that, that are of African descent, right? And so it's also sort of like teasing out the impacts of white supremacy in what the ideals that we all give our idea of what beauty is and what's acceptable and what's pretty and what's not. And typically, a lot of times, people of African descent, our image is not what is considered. That's, we're actually, and a lot of times we're living in a good time now where people are hyper aware of that and getting better at that. And in the book, that wasn't my intention. I really was just being honest about my upbringing, right? But that is a part of it. Those are the things those are some of the struggles that, and every character, if you will, these are real people, but everybody in my book, me, my mother, my father, my grandmother, everybody in my hood, whatever, in my mind, we were like microcosms of people all over America. So this story ain't just mine.
No, absolutely. Anybody can relate to it. Because me, I didn't grow up in D.C. I'm from Baltimore, which is a very similar city with a lot of the same problems from an economic, a demographic, from a government funding to schools. It has a lot of the same problems, even though the dynamics and the way it's broken up is apples and oranges. I mean, they always say D.C. and Baltimore are so close, but it's two separate worlds. But the problems are the same.
Sure. A lot of differences, but a ton of similarities for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences, a ton of similarities, absolutely. And quick question off subject. You ever thought about running for office, man? Running for any type of political office, getting into politics at all?
I have, and I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? I haven't thought about it.
Because it seems like you'd be such a perfect fit because you know the problems, you know the issues.
I hear that a lot.
And because you're not that guy, makes you that guy.
Yeah, I think it's a way though. What I've tried to, I've had close relationships with politicians, right? In terms of working with them to get certain legislation and policy passed. I'm more comfortable in that space. The thing about politics for me is that, one, I don't smile when I ain't happy. Yeah, it's just not, it's not for everybody. And I know that it's not for me. It's not in line. I don't mean to say.
I don't believe that.
I do though, bro. I can't. Because it's like one of them things, man. It's a part of politics that I would love to participate in. All the things, crafting legislation to help the people and all that, right? That would be great for me. But all the other stuff that you have to do as a politician, that's a part of that game, right? It's like, to me, it's like if you wanted to play basketball, right? Okay. But you wanted to run instead of dribbling the ball. You want to just grab the ball and run down the court. That's against the rules in basketball, right? Correct. If you want to do that, you need to play football, if that makes sense. And so I understand that. I respect the game. I respect how it go. Yeah, that's not. I'm not for the full thing. Bro, you wouldn't believe. I mean, maybe you can. I get endless calls about running for office. Probably,
I ain't saying run for president, but I can definitely see like in a councilman standpoint.
Sure.
But I mean, maybe later on, somebody can put the battery in your back and push you down. DC mayor, DC. We can see Tony Lewis.
But I'm gonna say this though. I'm gonna say this, and you wrapped it for real. I'm gonna say this right. I remember, and God rest Marion Barry Soul and Christopher Barry Soul, right? But this was at Marion Barry's funeral. His son Christopher was still alive, and Chris made a point that DC people. I mean, he had to share his father with the city, right? And the whole convention center erupted, right? Yeah, they applauded. But I saw the sadness in that. I don't think people understood what he was saying, right? He didn't have him. We had him. And I never would want that to be the reality for my children. And based on who I am and what I've done over the last 20 years of my life, the connectivity that I have, the reputation that I have, the track record that I have, I wouldn't be able to ever get off work. I mean, I live a very demanding life now, and I'm not an elected official. You know what I'm saying?
So you couldn't imagine.
I couldn't. I would have to literally change my entire life, and I think if I did that and I would have to put people in front of me, between me and people that needed me. I would have to do that, and I think things like that would change. I don't want to make those changes. You know what I'm saying? And the role, if I feel like I can continue to be in proximity enough with the people in those roles and confer, collaborate, influence them to get certain things done, I can live with that. I can live with that.
Once again, Tony Lewis, the incomparable Tony Lewis Jr., my special guest right here on Creators of the DMV, WPGC 95.5. And I'll tell you, like, another reason why I respect you so much. And I always respected the way you moved. And I said this the first time I even met you, and you had no clue who I was, that I just respected the way you moved. Because if you know the story about who your father was, about Tony Lewis Sr. and the story of Race for Edmonds, like, you had every opportunity in the world to go left. Yeah. And you would have so many sponsors to sponsor you to go left. But you chose to go a different route, and you chose to keep others from going that different route. And the way you did it, it was just so commending, and that's why I
appreciate that.
Bigger part of this piece, making you a creator of the DMV. I mean, that's just like a small token to what the DMV I think really owes you for the impact that you have on the young kids of today, because they don't really see it, because they know the stories. Everybody got YouTube, they got Instagram, right. They can backtrack. With the what's the old show that came on, like American Gangsters or something like that. Yeah, all that was all on. So people know the stories and all that stuff. So you got the rep off the break. So they already going to follow you. But it's where you follow them. Where you going to lead them to.
Sure.
And that was a big thing why I always respected the way you moved.
Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, man. I mean, for me, bro, like, when you grow up how I grew up and saw the things that I saw, like, and experience the things that did the things that I did, all that, like, because one of the things about my life is like, yeah, my father who he is, and my uncles who they are, you know what I'm saying. My neighborhood, Hanover, is what it is, But like my generation, my friends, bro, died or went to jail for killing people. Like in my era, like I never like lived off, That's not how we came up, because in my era. Nobody really care about that. Like, you had to really like stand on your own too, and then we didn't move like that. We didn't move in a way in which we like, it wasn't about like we this and we that. Nah, that's not how we was even taught to operate. And so like a lot of what they did was so that, the whole goal was to legitimize at some point. The whole goal was to get out of the conditions that we grew up in, and unfortunately, so much of the lifestyle that we come from has been exploited by, whether it's through music, whether it's through movies, and the messaging is off center. When you really come from it, you don't seek that out. You trying to do everything in the world to avoid
Get away.
that. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that I've really, have stood on in my life. I've lived my life that way now. And I didn't, but it wasn't like a linear thing either. Because I ain't see nothing else. So it's not like I aspired to be who I am today. How could I? It wasn't no positive influences around me. But what it was guys who said, I don't want you to do this because look, this is where this end up. And if you got something in you that you can do something else, we can't really advise you on that because we don't know. But you got something special, and I knew that about me. I knew, from early on. I mean, I felt like I was always different. You know what I mean? My whole life I felt like I was different. But if so Slug is all. That's why to me the book was so important because it really unpacks. It pulls back the veil. So all that you think you know about what go on or what went on. Let me show you like the reality. And then like when people get life without the possibility of parole, like, so you can't talk about how much money my father and them made without talking about that part. We're going to tell this story. We're going to tell it in its fullness. Right. And so, that's what people get from me. That's what people have always gotten from me. Like the real, yeah. And with young people and all this glorification of what we can, but I also feel like I'm one that we don't have to glorify, but we also not ashamed, right, of where we come from. I'm not hiding who I am or where I come from, who I come from, or who I belong to. Because if you pat me on my back and say that the things that I do they're admirable and you respect it, right? I'm not opposite of them, right? So all of who I am comes directly from them, right? My fathers, my uncles, obviously my mom, my aunts, but I come from a family that was involved in the underworld on both sides. But they taught me these values, the same values that I've used to impact the world come from them. And when I say that to say that often people from where we from, we get described in this one way, or we just become the mistake we made. And you know what I mean? We
try to base your whole life off one incident.
Fact.
Or just box you in this corner, and this is what you are, and this is what you're going to be.
And that's it.
Because it just makes it easier to just push you to the side and throw your life away.
And we play into that narrative a lot. I think my whole existence it puts that into question. You know what I'm saying? Like, am I that good or are they that bad? Like, which one is it, right? And I believe that it's neither. You understand? It's neither. And there's many times that I found myself in situations in my neighborhood, like, I feel like I luckiest man alive every day because it's just like I am supposed to be here. I'm clear on that. But, I mean, the probability that you come from around Hanover, like where I come from, and I've never been arrested. And I also don't take lightly that I'm probably one of the most respected guys amongst people that's been to prison, and I ain't never been. That's something else that's rare. You know what I mean? But I know why. I mean, most guys, like, again, we grew up together. So it's like, you know me, you know what I mean? Or I grew up under you, or somebody that, whatever it may be. And my dedication to men and women that have been incarcerated, my dedication to children of incarcerated parents, all of those kind of things. But being able to, I don't take that lightly either, because I know what I mean to specifically those groups. I know I impact people in general, but I know for those groups, I represent hope for them, right? They know there's somebody out there fighting for them, which I think in many ways gives them, sort of the motivation to continue to fight for themselves, because sometimes they're fighting so hard, but ain't nothing happening, right? But they know that I'm out there. They know that somebody that they know that said, man, Tony, help me. Just hold on. He going to make something happen. And that could be a lot of pressure sometimes, but, I know that's why when them bullets went off, I ain't get hit, or when the FBI came, they ain't take me. I was spared so that, I could be in this position to help my people.
You were put here.
Yes, without question.
And once again, Tony Lewis Jr. right here, my special guest, creators of the DMV. All right, so let's take it back then. Like you said, you were spared. On that day when everything rushed in, everything hit the fan, and you realize, man, daddy's going away, he might not be coming back for a long time. What could you tell yourself then?
Yeah, but I ain't talking about when daddy went to jail. I was only 9 when he went to jail.
Okay.
I'm talking about me, my life, my age group, and that was many times.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm talking about at this point, we can get to that too.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm talking about, what would you tell a young Tony Lewis, or even another child around that same age about to go through the same thing?
Right. Yeah, I would, man, that's a good question. I would tell him a lot, for real. Like, but some of the core things that I would tell him is that, there is another way. Like, you can do something different, even if you don't see it, even if nobody connected to you is doing anything professionally or positively that you can, right? Mm. Also, that those people that are around you, and though they may be breaking the law, they have value, right? Mm. And they got hopes and dreams that they may not be able to realize, but you can realize not only your dreams, but through you realizing your dreams, you realize theirs. You are their hope, right? Mm. And, obviously be very, very strategic and intentional about who you spend a lot of your time with.
And they always say the 5 people you hang around, 5 broke people, you're gonna be the 6th.
Yeah.
Wherever the close people you're in your circle, that's who you are gonna be like.
And where we from, sometimes, and I was getting to this point, sometimes what that's gonna really turn into is that you gotta be courageous enough to be alone. Mm-hmm. Because you're gonna walk a path that nobody else is walking. And the other thing
and that's scary to a lot of people.
It is. It's scary to most people. Mm-hmm. No matter where you from. Because that's not really, as human beings, right? We're not programmed to be alone. That's not what it, you know what I mean? We didn't leave Africa and inhabit the rest of the earth alone, walk as loners, right? You know what I'm saying? Part of how we survived, right? Yeah. Literally as a species.
So you want to go fast, go by yourself. You want to go far, go with somebody else.
That's a fact. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We naturally cooperative, believe Absolutely. It or not. But anyway,
we feed off of each other's
energy. We have
not to. Created or destroyed. It's nearly transferred from one place to another.
Human beings cannot, you might think we can, you can't survive alone. You can survive for a minute. Yeah. But like literally, if we was like in our most primitive state, we need each other. So I'm saying all that to say that but to walk alone for a minute is possible. And coming from certain situations, you may have to do that. But then the other part I would tell a young Tony or a young guy too, but also be open, right, to meeting new people. And that can be also equally as frightening as scary, because a lot of times we raised to be a bit, antisocial, if you will. I don't know you. I don't really get close to people. I don't know. I know I struggle with that.
It's the fear of being vulnerable.
Yeah,
a lot of times, letting people really cut through that cloth. Because when you first meet somebody, I always say it's like the interview. And you meeting that representative. Yeah. You're not really meeting the real person when you first meet them. So once you peel them layers back and you feel you really get to know a person, now I'm vulnerable. Now you have things that you may be able to use against me in certain situations.
And we've been hurt
that's
before,
the fear.
Too.
That's the fear. Yeah, and you've been hurt before.
I mean, that's
so that
really
PTSD. PTSD goes further than people just from military. Yeah. I mean, PTSD is real just in your everyday people.
No question about
even though they might not acknowledge it in the court of law. But PTSD is real outside of military.
For believe that, God bless the vets and thanks for everything they do. But I mean, you talking about people growing up their whole life, in a war zone, if you will.
Absolutely.
And we you ain't and not to really compare pain, but not just losing somebody you met in boot camp. But you losing somebody that y'all came out the same woman. Y'all live in the same house, you know what I'm saying? Your whole entire life, family, blood, right? Or your best friend, you know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff. So, but we don't that's an incredible point though. But we never given that carte blanche. We're never given that consideration when the impacts of that spill out, and whether it's acts of violence, whether it's us, having a blow up at the job, whatever it is, we're not giving that. And but yeah, man. So I would definitely talk, but it's good people out here, and don't let that trauma block. Those blessings of you being able to connect with good folks, because that was one of the things, and I struggled with that up into my early 30s. I just started really being, I was always friendly, if you will, but I mean, like really connecting and building with people. Like, you weren't from around my way, or I was clear that me and you had like somebody, and I wasn't dealing with you. I was the worst at a networking event. I started to benefit from people kind of knowing who I was. I could always talk to anybody. That's fine. Like if we, but I wasn't sparking no conversation and all of that. I say hi, but that, but again, that's things we carry with us. So I definitely would tell my younger self that, and it's gonna be hard. My life was hard. My life was difficult. My life difficult now. My father's still locked up. My father been locked up 31 years. My mother's still schizophrenic, or dealing with those severe mental health issues, and now trying to actually introduce, like I brought 2 other lives into that world that have to be impacted by that. Those their grandparents. I want them to have a relationship, but that generational trauma is impacting my little girls, right? And which also hits me. My friends still in the street. So I still deal with my friends going to jail or my friends being victims of gun violence or perpetrators of gun violence, all that stuff. And not to mention the work that I do. My clients die, man. Or my clients go to jail, and I wear that because it's like if I feel like I hold some of that blame. You know what I mean? So all of those things is very, very real. And one of the things I would also tell my younger self, and I tell young people all of this, some of the most traumatic things in our life, right, or in our lives, they may not change. They may not get better, but you have to. I mean, that's pretty much it for me.
I like that.
You got to understand that, because if we can't accept, even if funny, I was in one of the high schools, Bell Multicultural, the other day, and we was going through the book, and I was saying, like, man, since I released the book 5 years ago, my grandmother passed away. 2 of my uncles who were like second dads to me passed away. You know what I mean? And just things like that. That's life though. Life continues to happen. You just never know. But you got to continue to press on. And part of that to me is acknowledging and having acceptance of the facts. I don't know if people know the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and like at the top is like self-actualization, and but in that sort of top, your most enlightened point of a person is acceptance of the facts. And so I try to accept the facts, because if you can't, and don't worry about the things you can't change, man.
So you talked about how you don't want to get into politics, right?
Yeah, I don't.
But I still think you're the perfect guy for the job.
I appreciate
it is what it is. But you say you do appreciate being close to the people that are in it.
Mm-hmm.
Being that you do know the problems, what are some solutions that you would like to see put in place for the DMV, DC area, and the surrounding area right now that you think would work and make a big impact immediately? Because I know you got those solutions.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying I think you're the perfect person. But what do you think the solutions are that need to be put into place?
I think one of the primary things that I would want to work on or help fix a solution is we have to remove barriers to employment for the formerly incarcerated. And I'm sure,
So you're saying take that box all the way off the application?
Nah, the box don't matter.
Okay.
The box is not the issue. The box already off the application. It's about the criteria for hiring, right? So the box not there, but they still do a background check. So if my hiring policy says we don't hire felons, at the point that I make you an offer is called a conditional offer. The condition is that you pass this background check. A background check is not something that you can get a C on, right? You either get an A or you get an F. And if you have a quote unquote F on your background, you're probably not gonna get the job. And here in the District of Columbia, and I would assume it'd be the same in Baltimore, that is like fundamental, particularly for black men, right? That is a handicap, right? And it marginalized. And so when black men can't be able to obtain family sustaining employment, right? What it does is put
what's in my hand?
Of course, for him, and it put additional pressure on the women in our community, and obviously the children in our community. And so we need a real economic plan. If we can get a strong financial / economic plan that's revolved around career development, revolved around business development for African Americans in these communities, then that's the only way that we're going to ever have safe communities. So people trying to address gun violence and public safety without having the economic and financial component tied to that. And so I think that's where the gap is. And if you did that, also, if one of the things in closing, like, you would even see this impact on our education system. There's no way in human civilization, no way in human history where you've seen the children do well in all of the parents perished. So if we don't stabilize adults, I don't care how great the programming, the teaching, the funding is in education, you're going to see some success stories, but you're never going to see the things that you want to see, because we have to work on that family. And so, again, that all goes back in my mind to financial stability and real opportunity and bringing back hope. You look at the uptick in murders in Baltimore, in D.C., right?
They're above the days of the year.
Yeah.
Like from 2019, I think it was like 370 for the year, and it's only 364 days in a year.
That's a sign of hopelessness, right? It's not just about, crew or gang violence or drugs. It's not just about that.
No,
it's about mindset and value. It's about hopelessness. And so when I don't see any other way, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, I throw my hands up. And that's the worst predicament that we can have people in, where they say, forget it, I don't care no more. And there's young men and women in our cities, not just in D.C. and Baltimore, but across our country, that's feeling that, And so we need systems and pathways that can, deliver people to make them competitive for these positions, for these contracts, or whatever the case. And to me, that's a fix for so much that's going on in our community. Everything is, Aristotle said that, poverty was the parent of crime and revolution, or revolution and crime. It probably will never be revolution in America, right? We probably never be that poor. Crime will probably always be an option, but that's the driver, man.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny the way you talk about the kids and the parents and getting to stabilizing the parents. I did an interview with I was talking to Monique Slaughter, and we had a real deep conversation off mental health, and she was talking about how people that are suffering from mental health, they don't want to be mad all the time. They don't want to not love their kids the way they not want to love their kids. It's not that they don't want to be there like they want to be there. It's just that they just don't know how, or don't see how to, because they're so mad and they're so angry, and they don't, a lot of times, don't know why they're so angry. So back to the point that you're saying about stabilizing the parents, because how can the kids really get to a certain point and be loved the way they need to be loved and be led the way they need to be led if the people that are leading them are not mentally there? Because you can physically be there, but if you're not mentally there, it's really just as bad as just not being there at all.
I'm telling you. And if people have real diagnoses, though, right, really dealing with like severe mental illness, like in my case, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't never questioned I know my mother loved me. You feel me? But the things that I endured based on her illness, bro, is like something that, I don't even know how I don't know how I did the things I did. God just blessed me with a ton of fortitude. You know what I'm saying? But it's some kids ain't gonna have what I had. Some kids ain't gonna have the grandmother that I had. You know what I mean? Or the aunt I had, or uncles I had. You feel me? Many of my friends didn't, and was dealing with either a parent that was dealing with mental illness or addiction, or a combination of both. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't make it. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think for society, the easiest lift, right, is to say, oh, we gonna save the kids. Maybe anybody that's really from those
just sounds nice.
It sounds nice. And to a novice, or to somebody that's not from those communities, it seems probable almost, right? Oh yeah, we just gonna, because also we got people think sometimes just their proximity, right, their presence is gonna save a kid. And I went to Gonzaga College High School, man, one of the most prestigious high schools in D.C. One of the most prestigious high schools in the country, you know what I'm saying? All wealthy high school, all white, or whatever case may be. And I made it through Gonzaga. Like, but if people when people see that, they be like, oh, that's it. But Gonzaga ain't support me. Gonzaga ain't save me. But people really feel like that's all we got to do with black kids. It's like, oh, you put them in a school where there's white people, or, that's gonna, but they got to go home every day.
Absolutely, still.
You know what I'm saying? They got to deal with, they got to make it to the school and then come home every day. And I think too much of the resilience and the brilliance of those children that make it through those institutions is attributed to other people. That if that kid makes it through there, that kid has something special. That school, it provided, is an opportunity, right? And what's crazy is there's so much of like really the benefits of going to Gonzaga. My trauma in the world I was in, and what I was going through, not just in the house, but dudes was shooting at us. We was beefing when I was in high school and all that. Like, I couldn't even fully benefit. I couldn't take it in. I didn't even see it as being.
All of it wasn't registering.
It wasn't. I didn't even want to be there. You understand? So, yeah, that's, it's layers to it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And we just peeled them back right now, creators of the DMV. My special guest, Tony Lewis Jr. So, I mean, gentrification. What do you think about the new DC?
Yeah, it's not.
You weren't expecting that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I think it's, You know, I just want more inclusion, and I'm not against development at all. I'm against erasure. You know, my people, and when I say my people, I just mean, you know, black people born here are in a state of emergency. You know what I mean? Period. State of emergency. Median income for black people in D.C. $45,000, $142,000 for white people. Right, it's almost $100,000 difference in median income. Right, unemployment for black people is the only group that has continued to rise. We're not.
Don't let Trump tell you that.
No, I'm talking about in D.C. though.
I know, but I'm saying don't let Trump say it. He's gonna tell you something totally different.
Yeah, I don't know if he can speak on the local African Americans here in Washington. I guess his context is probably more national, but I don't know if that's, you know, true or not. But here in D.C., that stuff not trickling down. Native black folks are they're in despair, and they're not connected, and so, you know, people be hard pressed. Before, you know, DC's always been a transient place. It's always been a place that people came. It was founded.
It's a melting pot.
It was founded to be a place where people came to work. So we get that. But guess what though? You went back through centuries. You would meet somebody from here. You can move to DC now and not even run into a Washingtonian.
Absolutely. Even me being a DJ, like I can do a party and it'd be all out of towners.
Facts.
It'd be all out of towns because of the government, because of Howard, and just everything under the sun. It's just like you say, where New York at? You say where you get to New York, Philly, Baltimore. You can go all around the country, L.A. You can say Miami, but you get to D.C. and it'll be the show that supplies.
Yeah, in D.C.
Yeah, in D.C.
Yeah, I think
DC.
that impacts how people don't consider us. People don't respect us. That's what the whole D.C. native movement was about.
Yeah, there's been a lot of pushing to PG County, pushing everybody out to PG County.
Yeah, in further.
Which is happening in Baltimore as well. Baltimore as well.
What's
with
happening in
John Hopkins buying up a lot of East Baltimore and pushing everybody out to the county. So it's a lot of things.
It's happening in most major cities, right? But nothing is happening comparable to DC, right? Because what happens is you had no city was as black as DC, right?
Chocolate City.
And you had a lot of our talent or our professionals or affluent folk that was in the city. Most of them at that point back then, the 80s and the 90s, moved to PG County by choice. And so what was left was really a ton of people that weren't doing well. And then the crack epidemic really is these things aren't islands. They're really connected, right? The crack epidemic destabilized the black family so much in this city that it really laid way to what we see now in terms of gentrification, right? It crushed 2 or 3 generations of DC natives. We look at the education attainment, and our job market is probably the most competitive in the country also. So you factor in all the hyper policing and mass incarceration. And so you got a large percentage of DC natives that have criminal histories. A lot of the jobs here in DC, banking and finance, IT, a lot of government jobs, hospitality, a lot of those jobs are adverse to people with criminal histories. But you also have to have bachelor's degree, master's degree, or some post-high school training and education to be competitive, which a lot of the individuals don't have. And not to mention that we the only place in America that you break a local law, you do your time in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. We don't have a state prison. So we don't have any autonomy over what kind of interventions and training people get while incarcerated.
Because it's a district.
Right. So you got people leaving a broken school, or what could be considered a broken school system, particularly in people, say, 30 to 45, going into a prison system that they're not necessarily getting better, and then coming back to a job market that's the most competitive in the country is a recipe for disaster. So that's what we have. The most common jobs for DC natives or black people that live in DC: janitors, cashiers, and secretaries and slash security guards, right? Just think about that for a minute. Most of the secretaries and security guards and the cashiers are women. And so janitors, and the average janitor probably make $29,000 a year in a place that's probably has the 3rd, 4th highest cost of living.
It is high.
I'm just saying,
yes, it is.
it you see what I'm saying, right?
Studio will run you $1,500 a month.
Right. So that's what all the DC and Native stuff and advocacy around that, Don't Mute Go-Go, all this stuff was about bringing attention to the fact that we have to do a better job of intentionally, strategically creating systems to support and help the DC Native sustain and preserve and really slow down and try to stop. We need more affordable housing. We need rent control. We need all of those things also, right? Because even with affordable housing, though, because the median income here is so high, affordable housing here is not necessarily affordable. So again, you still need to have some type of job, career that will pay you a certain wage. So yeah, man, we really got to do more. And because it's so many strangers. And this is the last thing I'm gonna say on this. Black people make up 46% of the population here in DC at this point. It may, 46%. When I growing up, it was 76. But we got 46% African American, and of that, maybe 30% of that are natives, right? When you look at victims of violent crime, when you look at those incarcerated, when you look at those that are homeless, those that are unemployed, those that are food insecure, those that are receiving, any type of housing support, it's in the 90th percentile. Those people are Black people from DC. Just think about that. We make up such a small percentage of the overall population, but we represent. It's still the issues are still Chocolate City, and so I think the city, every resident, our government, we have to really, really sit and ponder that. How, why, like what does that say about who we are? What are our values around that? You know what I mean? But many of the people that's in positions of power and authority, they don't have any connection to that. You know what I mean? We just had, the deadliest year of the decade. But for most people here, this is one of the safest places in the world because it's the violence isn't happening to them nor anybody that they know.
Absolutely.
But it's happening, though.
It's displaced.
Yeah.
That's where they want. But creators of the DMV, I feel like we can talk all night about these type of subjects.
Yeah,
and you said you was tired when you came in. But before I do let you go, I do want to know what's next for Tony Lewis.
Definitely, continuing to go into, schools and converse and build with our young people, moving around the country, going to the different colleges and trying to, influence and teach and grow and learn from the new scholars. I want to continue to write, So
another book in the works?
Yeah, another book, a few op-eds. Yeah, but I'm definitely in the writing phase right now, so be on the lookout for that.
How soon could we be expecting another
Slug 2? I don't know. That might come top of next year, but we definitely got some op-eds and some essays coming. DC Native Day, definitely May 20th, so be on the lookout for that. Shout out to my co-conspirator, Angel Gagario, and pull up at the Spice Suite, which is her spice shop, best spice shop in DC. But we're going to have a Native talk. We're going to have, obviously, the photo shoot. That's sort of the historical thing we do. But we're having a sneaker ball this year.
Okay.
To really celebrate our culture. Yeah, for sure, bro. We got to. We're doing it big. So be on the lookout for all the details and particulars. And we also doing a Native walk, trying to weaving in walk, run, weaving in sort of, fitness component this year, too. We're going to walk or run from Hanover, which is my block, up to her store, the Spice Suite.
Okay.
Be on the lookout for that. And then the Go-Go legislation got passed through. Go-Go now the official music of DC. So we're trying to get that bill funded so that we can provide, do the museum and do curriculums in school, teaching our youth about Go-Go, teach them about the instruments, infusing Go-Go into tourism and marketing and all that. So shout out to Mayor Bowser and the council for pushing that through. I think that's a big deal. So yeah, just be on the lookout, man. We moving, man.
Wow.
Follow me at Mr. Tony Lewis Jr. That's Instagram and Twitter. Keep up with everything we doing.
All right, well, there it is, man. Creators of the DMV, another segment installed, man. The incomparable Tony Lewis Jr., man. I appreciate you coming by,
Thank
man.
you, bro. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, bro.
Oh, man.